Well, I appreciate it. This is not a press conference. This is a Q&A opportunity because most of you have contacted me over the past month relating to the investigation that has been conducted at the Beaufort County Detention Center involving a county council member. So my investigator Baird is here, and my general counsel Daniel Gorley is here. Daniel is going to address, I'm sure, some questions about the statute and how the statute applies to the investigation, and he will clarify that, whatever those concerns are. There are probably a good many comments that we'll make, but I'm going to allow you to be more involved in this process instead of me standing up here telling you things I think you want to know or want to hear about. I think it's probably better that you ask the questions. That way we can do it, because what I classified it as is a Q&A opportunity. This has been a month-long investigation. So we were contacted, I was contacted by the chair and co-chair of county council, that would be Allison Tabb, on the 25th of August. And I met with them here on the 25th, and they shared concerns with I and Investigator Baird and Daniel Gorley about a selfie photograph that was being shared by a council member relating to an inmate in the county facility, the county jail, and it appeared that the photograph was taken within the facility, and they had concerns about it, which they should have. We talked about it. They shared what information they had. They gave us the information pertaining to what employees with the county could be vital to interview. And let me make this point clear, and I know y'all have done a good job at this over the years, but it appears that there are so many people that think that sheriffs run jails. I have never ran a jail, don't intend to run a jail. So there's a lot of things that go on, policy procedure at the Beaufort County Jail, detention center, call it what you want, that I'm not quite aware of, because we don't have anything to do with those kind of circumstances. So we started the investigation, and the investigation was related to a August 20th photograph. And I didn't give you all information early on about who the council member was, nor who the inmate was, but I know after a few days, the inmate took it upon himself to reveal his identity as well as the council member's identity, and that's fine. So let me just go. Let me start, because there's a lot of information, but I want to answer your questions. So whoever's got a question, we'll be glad to respond to it. Yes, sir.
So Sheriff, what's the status of the investigation now? Are you going to bring charges or suggest charges?
That is a very good question. We think at this point we're very close to being complete. But this thing has been an onion from day one, because every time we peel back a layer, there's another layer that exposes itself, and then it just leads us into other areas. So where we went into this investigation looking at a photograph within the jail taken by a council member and being shared with other folks, not only on council but also county administration, as when Brian started digging into this and started doing interviews, all of a sudden there were more interviews that needed to be done, and there were other issues that were coming up that were of concern. So I want to say we're probably about 98% complete, unless The next interview that Brian does reveals other folks that need to be interviewed about other issues that have come up through this investigation that's necessarily not connected or related to the cell phone issue inside of the facility, but there are other things that have come up. So a long answer to your question about 98%.
But then let's start with the issue itself of the photo, where you're 98% done with that because you came up with other issues, but the one issue starts with that person taking the photo in jail. So where are we with the possibility of charges for that specifically before we get to those other issues?
Another good question, and that's why Daniel's going to talk to you all about the actual statute that we considered. But there are other things that are under consideration as well. I'll give you an example. We go into an environment like the jail, which is a controlled environment that follow not only the internal policy of Beaufort County, but they also are required to follow the policy and procedure of the South Carolina Department of Corrections. The South Carolina Department of Corrections oversees jails and prisons in South Carolina, even holding cells in South Carolina. So, so you have a overall policy and procedure on how to run these facilities and how inmates are treated and how the custody and care and so forth. But also Beaufort County has policy and procedure associated with the fact that the county administrator and the county administration runs the Beaufort County Detention Center. So we go into this, and I've got to be honest with you on the front end, and I know Daniel will talk about the legal side of it, but there are a multitude of bad decisions throughout this investigation. Not by the investigators, not by our legal staff, and not by Tab and Alice. Tab and Alice did the right thing by reporting it. But there are a multitude of concerning issues on policy and procedure at the Beaufort County Detention Center that for the most part have allowed criminal activity, but Daniel will go into further detail about what we can prove and what the burden of proof is, and if those charges should be made. But having said that, there are other issues that have come up in the investigation that is probably, and when Brian finishes his paperwork, which I don't know, maybe several more weeks from now, all of that's going to be submitted not only to SCDC, South Carolina Department of Corrections, for their review, but it's also going to have to go to the South Carolina Ethics Commission, because there are things in there too that would be, the Ethics Commission would like to look at it. Now, the solicitor and I have been, communicating through this entire process, and but I can tell you that everyone involved in this investigation, as it relates to the council member, the inmate, and the jail, made bad decisions. Bad choices were made. Bad choices were made that really doesn't reach the level of looking at criminal charges under the statute, but may be something that the South Carolina Ethics Commission would want to review. So I know that's a kind of a roundabout answer to your question, but this is not a normal investigation.
Because there'd be many people out there who have and are questioning the fact of, if this was a regular citizen who
Sure.
did this in the jail, would he or she already not been arrested or charged in some form if it wasn't a council person?
Well, the answer to that is yes and no. Because the gatekeeper allowed the council member to do certain things, it's kind of hard to go back and hold the council member by statute liable, if you will, for doing what he was allowed to do. So I mean that's kind of where this thing has reached a point to where you take 2 steps forward and you take a step back, and then you have to analyze. You take the statute and apply it to the circumstances, and you take the facts and apply it to everything, Beyond a reasonable doubt is the ultimate, pinnacle that you're trying to find. Can we find probable cause in some areas? Sure, but beyond a reasonable doubt would be the consideration for 12 jurors to find a person responsible and guilty for a crime, and then you analyze and weigh in the other factors that a person was allowed to do certain things, which is an absolute violation of policy and procedure, not only through SEDC, but also through the county. I mean, it's a mixing bowl of, I can't stress it enough. Very, very poor decisions were made by everyone involved.
Then do you feel lucky that someone didn't bring in a weapon or something else? Not saying this council person would be. Considering the failures that you found, was there the possibility of something like that going on?
Well, you know what? I don't have the assurity that couldn't happen. What we found that happened during this investigation is really disturbing and concerning. The initial investigation started with a cell phone being in the county facility. And we were able to go back and look, here's another thing. How many hours, and I think, Chloe, you've looked at some video, hours of video that was looked at, phone calls, an inmate in a county facility that made 129 phone calls from the 19th of August to the 22nd. Some of the video that if you haven't FOIA'd this stuff, then you need to FOIA it. I think I would recommend that you FOIA the video. You'll get copies of the reports, when Brian's completed them, which is going to take some time. But I think you need to see the video, and I think you need to FOIA the phone calls. Because there is a common scheme in this that we were able to come up with, but during the same time we were investigating the cell phone have then there was information that came to us that there was also medication was suspected to have been delivered to the inmate. And that's a whole nother statute within itself that's moving forward from there. So we've looked at the common scheme was, that the inmate wanted the council member to come to the jail to investigate the conditions of the jail. At the same time, was going to take photographs, which photographs were taken by the council member inside the jail, a selfie inside the cell of the inmate. And then a council member just kind of making his way throughout the county detention center. What is told to us was a legal visit, and the average citizen does not have that kind of access, any kind of visitation access such as that for inmates. Attorneys don't have that kind of access, visitation access to inmates. And again, as you go through this, and I know Brian spent days and hours looking at video, and of course the video we're looking at, we're still trying to figure out, well, how did this happen? How did this person get from this point in the facility to the cell with the cell door wide open? How do you make access or have access to a phone within a confined area? Well, it wasn't confined, within a controlled location like the jail, and make 129 phone calls. It's almost as if you had a phone in your cell, but in this case, the cell was never locked. The cell was never closed. The person just had access to roam and do whatever they wanted. Again, it's puzzling and frustrating, and that this scenario played out the way it did. So the medication part of the investigation took a whole different leg. We know about the phone, but the medication stuff took us in another direction. Outside of that, other issues came up during the investigation that may lead us to Barnwell, South Carolina. There may be issues that we need to look at in Barnwell, not in Barnwell, but, you know, working with law enforcement in Barnwell County. So it's 98% complete. We can tell you about the cell phone. You can read all about the cell phone stuff when you read the report, but the common scheme was that the council member come investigate. Council's job is not to investigate the conditions at the detention center. And a phone was allowed in the detention facility. Photographs were taken. Photographs were shared. I think one of the photographs, the selfie, was actually, if I'm not mistaken, when Brian's team analyzed the phones, it was actually a screen saver on one of the cell phones. So, but it's amazing to me as well how an inmate such as this could have that kind of influence over an elected council member that would lead that person to do those things, knowing that it's not allowed. Yes, ma'am.
So, Chair Tanner, thank you for being with us.
Could you speak up just a...
Sorry, thank you for being with us. Is your department looking into whether the councilman made a special request to meet the inmate in a special private room that's kind of set aside for legal counsel or, you know, other specific individuals that aren't a council member per se?
If you go to the jail, and Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you go to the jail and you want to visit an inmate, you can go online and you fill out a request. And if you want to visit that inmate, then you have to do it during visitation hours. And it's normally, I think they do some of it online.
It's all video now, sir.
But there are also areas in the facility that you can actually do a video visit, correct?
Videos are in the law.
Okay. That's as close as you can get. You can't get closer than that, Chloe. If Daniel Gorley, our attorney, wants to have a legal visit with an inmate, then there are 3 or 4 rooms that are inside the detention facility that are set up for lawyers to meet with their clients, or a DSS worker to be in there, or a drug counselor and those type things. Those are rooms in the facility. As a private citizen, you can't get that far. But a council member shows up, the council member shows up to meet with Quandera Grant, who is the Colonel Grant that oversees the jail. She was tied up. He asked to see Skip Hoagland. He was asked why. He said it was asked if is this a legal visit. Twice was asked that question, which of course we're assuming that the gatekeeper at the jail thought he was an attorney, so he escorted him back to one of the 3 rooms that were set up for attorney-client. But from there, he just managed to move throughout the booking area back to Skip's cell. And those things are, it is hard to believe. But you, as a reporter, as a citizen, you could never get that far. Now, keep in mind that the council member was dressed in county council garb. He had a county council shirt on with his logo on it. He had a lanyard around his neck with his ID on it. He had a backpack that had county council all over it. So, of course, our belief early on was that he was allowed to do all these things that he was doing because he was a county council member. Be that as it may, he was able to access the jail in a way that no one else could. Not an attorney, not anyone else. Lolita?
Sheriff, can you say whether your investigation has included interviews with that council member or any of the staff that were involved in this? Go ahead. Talk to me.
I think we did yesterday. Now, we've been in this investigation for a month, and we finally got an interview with him yesterday. But I want to say there was a dozen interviews, right out of, yeah.
The
So,
staff members you're talking about.
yeah. So, I mean, all these people have been interviewed, and again, all of this will be in the body of the report. So, questions?
You used the word scheme when you started this. So do you believe this is something that is just negligence that has been going on inside the jail when you're talking about the medication, when you're talking about the phone calls, and the councilman being able to go through? Or do you believe this is something that is a criminal, call a criminal enterprise that has been going on in there?
No, the scheme I referred to is that the influence that Skip had over Councilman Reitz was for him to come to the jail and visit him because his health condition, according to Skip, his health condition was so bad and he couldn't get his pain medication, and you know, he was just not being cared for, and the conditions of the jail were horrific, and he wanted Tommy Reitz to come see the conditions at the jail.
But the councilman's Reitz is not necessarily, we don't know yet, obviously you haven't said for sure, but isn't necessarily going to get charged because you said it was a failure from the other side.
And I'm gonna let Daniel go through that. That way he can answer those questions for you. But
Does that
I
mean
mean,
charge or get
the scheme, as far as we're concerned, was carried out because there was a request. One of the phone calls, there was a request. Matter of fact, there were several phone calls out of the 129 from Skip Hoagland to Tommy Reitz, and even the offer of campaign donations if this could be carried out, even to the point to where I'll fund your entire campaign if you pull this off. And, you know, the thing about it is you've got a phone inside the facility, you've got photographs that are being taken, you've got campaign promises, you know, and you got a selfie with a screensaver. So if Skip wanted Tommy Reitz to come to the jail and meet with him in person, it happened. If he wanted photographs taken of the jail, it happened. All of those things happened. So, I mean, those are just part of the reality. So, yes, sir.
Just a technical question. So when you say the 129 phone calls, those were phone calls, I'm assuming, on detention center phones that were monitored. These are not.
Correct.
These were not taken by the cell phone.
No, that's 129 calls through the detention center phone service.
And do you think that Hoagland had, you know, you mentioned him kind of wandering freely. Was his access any different from any other inmate that would have been in there?
I would assume yes. Based on what we saw on the videos and interviews we did, he was just what was he phrased?
They said they treated him as a trustee and allowed him to have more access than others.
Who's that?
He's just an old man, and they treated him like a trustee.
Colonel Grant and other reps from the detention center.
Was Colonel Grant aware of Councilman Reitz's entry when it happened?
Yes.
Was she aware of the level of access that he had when this happened, as it was happening?
To a point.
Can you elaborate?
She was aware that he was at the jail. He went there in the lobby asking to have a meeting with Colonel Grant. She was tied up. She was actually on a phone call with a contractor, and John Robinson was on that call as well. And then once that information was delivered to the councilman, that he would have to wait and take a seat in the lobby, he said, well, I need to visit an inmate while I'm here, and it just happened to be Skip Hoagland. And that's when he, you know, of course, a couple of questions came, and he was allowed access in the back. She wasn't aware that he was in the back, in the booking area, in Skip's cell, taking photographs until staff went to her to let her know and kind of question what is going on. And then she ended up meeting him in the lobby as he was leaving the facility.
Did she bring this to your attention before Allison tapped it?
No, I think Tommy did all that on his own by going to a meeting. They were having a council meeting on that Wednesday. And then he went over and he made had several conversations with county staff and started showing the photograph of the selfie with him and Skip at the jail that he had just taken prior to the council meeting.
Did Colonel Grant make an error by not requesting the sheriff's office conduct an investigation into this?
No, I mean, I can't say that on her. I mean, I think when Tab and Alice were aware of what happened, I think that their concerns alone was enough to say, hey, you know what? This is not right. We're going to call the sheriff and find out and let him look into it. So and when we met with them on the 25th, you know, I told them both. I said, well, someone within the county needs to be the complainant. So, I mean, my recommendations was you need to get Mike Moore, the county administrator, or one of his assistants to make the complaint. So John Robinson, I believe, was the complainant on it, and that was done on the 25th. And John met with Captain Barrett.
What was the medication that was brought in to Skip over?
We can't determine that medication was actually delivered. That's been why we've taken more time than this. If this was just ended up being a cell phone issue, Brian would have been done with it in probably a couple days. But again, all of a sudden, all this other information started coming in based on the interviews we were doing, and the medication was the thing that, you know, has taken the most time. But we have not been able to determine that medication was actually brought into the facility.
In the event that it was, would both the inmate and the council person be charged with that?
That would be kind of look, if in fact we could show and prove that medication was delivered to an inmate without going through the medical staff, which is a design of that facility, then absolutely. That would have been no question about it.
From your investigation so far, do you believe criminal charges against anyone in this case inside the jail, the council person, more for Skip, are in play right now? Or will they happen?
Well, I mean, I can't say that it won't happen, but at this stage, we're not pressing charges at this point. But again, we're 98%. You could ask me next week about this, and I might tell you we're 60%. I mean, this thing has been evolving over a period of time, but at today, right now, we don't have any criminal charges today. Yes, ma'am.
And is your investigation focusing on this situation with Skip Oakland and council and resources include other activities with other inmates?
No. Yeah. Right now, it's still the same people we're looking at. It doesn't involve other inmates, but there are some concerning things that came out that may lead us into another county and doing some other things. But the same inmate, same council member, same county staff. Yes, sir.
So could you elaborate at all on this Barnwell connection?
No, not yet. I mean, we will get to that at some point, but we kind of do. We're doing this in phases. So we go back to phase one. Phase one was the original complaint, which is the selfie, the photograph on the phone, and then what led into, possible medication being delivered to the jail. The other stuff was just down the road. We'll get to it.
Have you guys ever had anything similar to this, like in your time, share, like seen anything kind of similar to this, or is this something kind of being found that you guys are?
We get requests, and this is something, the city of Beaufort, the jail is in the city of Beaufort. So the city of Beaufort has worked complaints that have come out of the jail at different times. And of course, because the city of Beaufort and the county jail is in the county of Beaufort, then of course we get those calls and work those complaints as well. I can tell you right now that this is not the only investigation that's currently ongoing involving the jail. So there are others.
Through your office or through the city?
by my office. Now, you know, SEDC is an investigative arm, administratively, policy and procedures, kind of what they do. And I'm sure at some point in time, county administration will do some type of internal affairs type investigation on their jail as well. And I'm sure they'll probably use everything that Captain Barrett has done. Yes, ma'am.
And what's to be done about pieces of the video where the councilman's actions are not seen?
I can't hear you.
Like, what is to be done from the department's point of view in terms of pieces of the video that are not visible? For example, when he's being scanned down, that's not visible to y'all. What
Those
is
are-
to be done about that? Because you
Well,
can't make sense of that, I guess.
I can tell you that SCDC had an interest in that because camera locations are very, very important. And I know that Brian was frustrated on that as well early on because there was not a good camera view of the metal detector and the things that happened right there. We almost had to look at that through the reflection. And I know that's kind of like, how can you not have a camera that actually gives you a good picture of what, so, I mean, it's obvious that there are things that need to be corrected. And, I mean, those things are going to happen. Daniel, won't you come on up and talk about the law as it applies to what we've got so far?
So, to answer some of y'all's questions regarding, if it was a typical civilian, not a council member who came in there and took a cell phone into the jail, would they be immediately arrested? So 24/7/155 is the statute dealing with contraband in a municipal, county, state correctional facility. When reading 24/7/155, it actually states to furnish or attempt to furnish contraband to a prisoner. All right, so through the course of the investigation, which I'm sure Captain Barrett will speak about, there was not sufficient evidence to be able to prove, either on a probable cause level or by proof beyond a reasonable doubt in consultation with Solicitor Stone's team, that the council member had any intent to furnish or attempt to furnish a cell phone to the inmate in this question. So
being allowed in the jail is not a crime necessarily?
not necessarily. Again, we would hope, obviously I can't speak for Beaufort County Detention Center, but there are a number of policies and procedures in place to prevent contraband from coming in the jail. A cell phone is absolutely contraband under the 33-1 of the regs. But I can't speak as to why BCDC allowed an individual to walk into the jail with 2 cell phones.
But he can't be charged necessarily because they let him in?
It all falls apart underneath that with the attempt aspect of things. If it was somehow concealed or in a different factual situation, potentially. But when you knowingly and intelligently allow somebody to walk into the jail with a cell phone, it certainly eviscerates any ability to prove that specific intent required with an attempt crime.
How did the jail know, or how did jail staff know that he had 2 cell phones?
You watch the videos, I'm sure Captain Barrett can speak on it, but it was pretty obvious. Pretty obvious.
Did he go through a metal detector?
He did. But I'll let Captain Barrett speak on the facts about all that. Is there any other legal questions? Yes.
When you say furnish,
Mm-hmm.
can you describe what that means? Just-
Provide.
Okay, so just to, for example, if I were to go in and say, here's something I brought for you. that would be
Absolutely.
furnished.
That would be considered
Okay,
furnishing.
Okay, versus I just bring something in that is for myself.
Yep.
As a visitor.
Yes.
So that's where it becomes,
Well, then we get back into, so say you bring in a cell phone into the jail, what is your intent with that cell phone,
Okay.
right? And if your intent is to provide that cell phone to an inmate or a prisoner in that jail, then we come across an issue. And then we get back into the attempt aspect of what attempts did you make to provide that cell phone to that prisoner. And this situation, and the factual situation that the investigation unveiled, we just didn't feel comfortable that there was sufficient either probable cause, much less proof beyond a reasonable doubt, to be able to make those charges specifically related to the cell phone.
What are the questions that this case raises under the Evidence Act?
Well, so, you want in? As we were just kind of briefly hinting at, council members have the authority to deal with department heads when there is an open investigation, right, under the council administrative form of government. I'm not trying to speak for, County Attorney Brian Holbert or County Administrator Mike Moore, but council members cannot interact, conduct any sort of independent investigation into BCDC or any other department within the county government absent an open investigation through council. And so through the investigation done by Captain Baird, there was no indication whatsoever that county council had any sort of open investigation into BCDC justifying Mr. Reed's potentially going and meeting with Quandera Grant or attempting to conduct any sort of investigation, as was discussed in numerous jail calls with Mr. Hoagland. That's inappropriate under the Ethics Act. That will be, of course, I'm not the ethics attorney for South Carolina, but that will certainly be looked into.
The sheriff sort of alluded to what seemed like a quid pro quo. You come to the jail and investigate this, I will donate to your campaign. Then Reed's comes to the jail. Does that raise any ethics questions?
It very well could. You know, Mr. Reed's on the conversations, and of course, y'all can FOIA those conversations. They're all public record. He explained to Mr. Hoagland that any sort of donations were not necessary, that they were friends, and that he was just simply visiting a friend. But it certainly doesn't, you know, the appearance of it doesn't come across very well. Any other questions?
Did you find through the investigation that the jail has previously had issues with allowing contraband to enter visitors?
I'm going to let Captain Barry speak on that. I didn't conduct the investigation, so he would look into that. Any other legal questions?
If
Yeah.
medication comes back into play, I guess if you guys complete this investigation, you guys find out whether like the medication was, that he actually got the medication, is that where those contraband charges, you guys could actually bring those charges?
Certainly, and let me be clear, a cell phone is contraband, just as much as medication is contraband or any other item listed in the regs identified via multiple signs in the jail. If you walk into the jail, you'll see no cell phones, you'll see a laundry list of contraband all throughout, which is required by the statute. So whether it be medication or cell phone or any other contraband item listed in the regs under 33-1, it's merely the furnishing or providing of that cell phone or medication to an inmate where we run afoul, or the attempt to provide those items to that inmate is where we would run afoul with the statute. Yes.
And the statute doesn't allow the prisoner to be charged for receiving the contraband?
The
Is that
statute,
correct?
no, it does allow for a prisoner to be charged for receiving the contraband as well. Absolutely. Yeah.
And is it legally required for someone who's checking someone in to remind them of you can't bring X, Y, Z? Is that a legal requirement?
Not a legal requirement under state statute, but it certainly is a policy requirement. You know, and again, as Sheriff Tanner indicated, there were a number of policy failures on behalf of BCDC staff that I'm sure will be addressed by the county at the appropriate time, and or SCDC through their investigation with policies and procedures.
You don't go too far.
No.
But when you go into the jail, into the lobby, have you ever been to the lobby of the jail? There are signs there. The signs are there to tell you what is contraband. And even when you come through the Sally Port as an inmate, so those signs are there not only for the inmates, but those that come in to the jail to visit, to go through the lobby area. Inmates don't go through the lobby area. They actually come through the backside of the jail. So those signs are there and very obvious. But at the same time, when we're looking at that, county council members had a tour of the jail in April of this year. And a part of that tour was for them to understand how the jail operated, what you could and could not do. And even before they were allowed to enter the jail, they had to leave all of their personal effects, their wallet, their keys, their cell phones, in Colonel Grant's office, because they were told they're not allowed in the jail. So using well, I know you weren't supposed to take them back there, but no one told me I couldn't, kind of, you know, excuse for it all. But it also falls back to what Daniel was talking about earlier. You know, beyond a reasonable doubt also includes the fact that he was allowed to do those things, which then takes you into the policy and procedure and other violations by staff. So it was kind of like, it was like a perfect storm. We know we have criminal acts, but criminal acts were allowed to some extent. So we have gotten as far as we are now by peeling the onion back, but I don't know that there may be more to come. But I mean, you've been calling and you've been patient, and that's why I wanted to take the opportunity today to do this, because, I mean, y'all gonna hear from Neil Baxley about the storm in a few minutes when we get past this part, so this is an opportunity for you to get a lot of information today. So,
Daniel, do we know for a fact, and I don't know Tom's background, but do we know for a fact that he's not an attorney?
He is not an attorney. His son is an attorney, but he is not an attorney. Yes, sir. And typically, to that question, when an attorney comes into the jail, it's per their policy and procedures. I have a bar card. Every attorney has a bar card. You provide them a copy of your bar card. It's typically what is asked.
And to go off of that, he's not a clergyman.
I couldn't answer that. I don't know. I know we specifically asked, or Captain Barry specifically asked as part of the investigation, whether or not he was an attorney, and he confirmed that he was not.
did you say clergy?
Clergy.
I've never heard that. Don't know that he's a member of the clergy, no. Brian, do you know if he's a member of the clergy?
I do not believe he's a member of the clergy, but he's very active with his Catholic church.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
It's a relevant question.
And I thought we were also able to determine that Skip Hoagland was not one of his constituents, right?
That is correct.
Does not live in his district. But Tommy did say that he has 190,000 constituents because he represents everyone in Beaufort County. Questions?
Just the question I had before, is this indicative of a larger issue within the jail with allowing contraband to get in that shouldn't be visitors?
I tell you, and I don't know the answer to your question. It's a great question. Brian, have you ever worked a contraband case at the jail?
It's been a number of years.
Okay, so it's been some time back, but it has happened. We can pull that data for you. So I would recommend that you allow us to go back and pull some of the case, because Brian, over the years, on special investigations, he's probably been involved in most of them that have dealt with the jail. But there've been more administrative issues than anything else. So I would say there are two things there. One, you might want to contact Hannah, and she may be able to pull internal reports, maybe that came out of Colonel Grant's office about issues involving inmates and contraband, and then we can pull what we know through our reports of cases that we've actually investigated. But I don't know the answer to it until we do that.
This inmates that are in the county detention center understand the 5 individuals that were obtained, arrested yesterday by ICE there in the county detention center, is that right?
I don't know.
We don't know.
No, because let me help you. That was a SLED investigation. The warrants that were for, I think those inmates that were arrested were state warrants that were given to us by SLED. And if you need any information about that incident, those arrests yesterday morning, you're gonna have to get that from SLED.
What about, were any of your men involved in that incident?
We were asked by SLED to help and assist them with the service of state warrants. We weren't asked by immigration enforcement to do anything. We were asked by SLED to help them serve state warrants, which is what we did.
And the warrants were for?
Identity theft and fraud.
Have your two officers that were trained under the, have they started yet, or are they kind of working in the county, or are they still training?
They haven't been to training yet.
Gotcha. Okay.
When do you anticipate that training to take place?
You know, because of everything else that's been going on, and don't know what the storm will set us back next week, but it's a 5 to 6 week training. Right now, it's looking like probably sometime in November.
And would that happen in Charleston or locally?
A lot of it. Some of it's done local, some of it's done online, and then there, of course, there's Another part of the training is actually like an FTO with an immigration agent, so. But, you know, one of the guys that is going to be assigned to the unit, he was previously assigned to that unit, so he's been through the training before.
What other agencies were involved yesterday besides the sheriff's office?
Oh, there's a laundry list. SLED can provide that to you.
Have you guys assisted have you guys assisted SLED and ICE in these similar in these similar cases in the past couple of weeks?
No.
You guys, sir, okay, so
No.
it's like the first one you guys have had.
You know, SLED was one of the early 287G signees in South Carolina, and I know they've got a lot of agents assigned to that 287G program. Our contract is signed with 287G. I mean, we're signed and ready to go, but we're not going to be able to do anything until the two officers are trained and certified, which is a process. No, they were already here.
Oh, who are they?
Good question. Good answer. Not going to tell you. Not yet.
I haven't gotten any reports that any issues happened physically with the people who were picked up yesterday at all. But there was a recent incident that just happened in a courthouse up north where one of the ICE officers was relieved of his duty after pushing down one of the immigrants out there. There are still questions, I know you've answered those in some of the public forums, about the physicality and the way ICE is treating people. Is there a way that you can assuage, some of the fears of the people in Beaufort County that the physicality and some of the angry incidents that have gone on connected to ICE from the agent's side over won't happen here because of what was going on?
Well, you know, I've allowed a lot of people in this county on several public venues to ask me questions about things that happen in Beaufort County. I haven't got that question yet. You're talking about something that happened somewhere else I don't know anything about. I can tell you what happened yesterday. With our involvement, there was none of that. No one was wearing a mask. You know, no one was hiding their identity from law enforcement. There was no one injured. There was none of that. So that's how we operate in Beaufort County. But I can't respond to what happens in other places. I don't know. I don't know what caused it.
Your guys won't be wearing masks then, in
No,
theory?
unless COVID comes back. Yes, sir.
After those two officers are finished with their training, do you see them taking part in operations with ICE in the same way that SLED did yesterday?
It just depends on what kind of investigation we have ongoing. This investigation, I mean, I'm not going to speak for Mark Keel, the chief of SLED, but this is an investigation that's been going on for some time. I think you'll want to know the story when you actually understand what it's all about, because I think it's important that everyone understands it. So there's information that's, I'm sure, forthcoming about this, and I think you'll want to write a story on it. I thought they did a good investigation. I thought they did a good job.
You said your guys yesterday were there to help serve warrants. Can you explain why the sheriff's office needs to do that and why SLED can't do that on their own?
We all work together all the time. And there was a host of different agencies that were represented yesterday. SLED can give you more of a description, but I can tell you that we were there because we were asked by SLED to assist them. We know Beaufort County. SLED agents out of Columbia and other regions of the state don't know their way around Beaufort County like we do. This is where we work every day. So there are nuances to this county that other people don't know anything about. And then our technology and our intel and all the stuff that we use every day are things that they depend on when they come. Any county they go to as a state agency, they're going to be extremely dependent upon the sheriff and the police departments within that county, because that sheriff and those police departments know the county better than anyone.
So there were 5 people arrested yesterday on state charges. Were any other people detained on immigration?
You know, and I'm sure SLED can give you that information. Just give them a call.
How many of your staff people were out there?
I think we had 5.
Spoke to someone who witnessed the operation yesterday, and they said that there was a drone flying overhead. Was that the sheriff's office or one of the other agencies?
I mean, I know there were drones being used. I mean, the investigation yesterday morning it went exactly how it was planned to go. So, a lot of resources are used. When I say resource, I'm talking about technology, anything that we have and that the other agencies have to work those kind of cases, it's all utilized.
How long did they let you, when were you brought into the picture? And they said, okay, we're gonna do this a week out, or did you know about a day or two in advance? Or-
You talking about what happened yesterday?
Yeah.
We've known about it for some time.
That it was gonna take place on this particular day?
Yeah.
Kind of thing?
Yeah. I mean, all those things are well planned. It's not a, you know, it's not a knee-jerk type scenario, 11th hour plan. These things are well planned. We do ops plans on about everything that we do. And that's for operational security and safety, and we're nationally accredited, and those are the things that we do based on our accreditation. And it's just a smart thing to do. Make sure everyone's on the same page.
There are also reports of federal agents being spotted on Hilton Head yesterday following the operation in Bluffton. Was the sheriff's office there accompanying agents at Hilton Head as well?
Yeah, we were looking for people to serve warrants on. Yeah.
Part of the same operation as the one that happened in Bluffton?
Mm-hmm.
Same case?
Yeah.
Was there a company that was the subject of the operation? Was there a company that was the subject of the operation?
I'm sure SLED can tell you what that company is, if there's a company involved. I mean, I'm sure. I mean, and look, that information, quite honestly, if it would have been up to me, that would have been released prior to us having this conversation. That stuff should be released. Because what hurts these type things is when you're not releasing information in a timely fashion. I get phone calls like I got yesterday afternoon from people that have seen things on Facebook and YouTube, and they're drawing their own conclusions and creating their own image of what happened, and that's the wrong thing to do. But we can't ask you not to do it if we're not providing you the information that we look at as fact. So everyone creates these fictional things that are going on, and it just one feeds on another and spawns another. And I wish, but look, I try to stay in my lane when I'm have the opportunity. And I respect the federal agencies. I have a lot of respect for SLED, but this is a SLED case, and I don't want to be their spokesperson. But if I would give advice to SLED, I would say you need to release information in a timely fashion. That keeps all this other stuff at bay.
Is a SLED case not an ICE case?
I think it's a combination of both, but the request for us was from SLED, yeah, for the service of state warrants.
Selfie. Have you ever taken a selfie, and what's your thoughts on that?
I took one with my dog, and you see what I got out of it? A scratch. Look, I know there are people, I don't do Facebook. I'm not involved in social media. You won't find a Facebook page for me. You won't find all that stuff. And so, and I know Brian's over here laughing. I'm not looking at him, but I know he's laughing because I'm the technology king. If you want to know anything about technology, all you got to do is ask me. And I'll direct you to the person you need to be talking to. Because it's not me. And you know what? I'm glad. Because there's too much out there. And you know, look, technology is great. I know that Captain Baird and his team in our intel section, with the ALPR cameras and all the other stuff that we've been doing here over the past year, I mean, the technology is phenomenal. You work smarter, not harder, type thing. And Lindsay and the stuff that she's done with, enhancing a Nixle and all the other stuff that she does. I mean, anything that we can do to get information out to the general public in the form of fact keeps the fictional stuff, again, at bay. And then we don't have the rhetoric and all the other stuff that you asked a question earlier about, about how we respond to these kind of investigations, the use of force and all that kind of stuff. I mean, we put out information and we let the general public see how we work, see how we operate. And it lowers the fear level. It lowers the temperature in a community, in a county like Beaufort County. We're not cowboys. We have a job to do and we're going to do it. But I'll tell anyone in any set of circumstances or scenario, if law enforcement confronts you, you cooperate. That's your best case scenario. Cooperate. If you've got an issue on how you felt like you were treated by law enforcement, then there's remedy to that. And those remedies are in the form of a civil suit or the court case itself. But don't square off at law enforcement and want to go fisticuff. That's not going to be good for you. We appreciate the fact that you're willing to cooperate. So, any other questions about? Yes, ma'am.
Have all the people, this goes back to the investigation, have all the people you've interviewed or requested to interview been compliant with showing up to interviews and all of that? Have they, I don't know if compliance is the right word, have they not hindered the investigation?
And it's really unfair. I wouldn't use the word hinder, but I know that Captain Baird has interviewed a lot of people, and I think everyone, for the most part, has met with Brian under a time frame that was suitable for both of them. I think the only one that took longer than anyone else to interview was Councilman Reitz. It took a month, but that interview was conducted.
And then this might be a question for Daniel. Can the South Carolina Department of Corrections charge people with a crime? Or how does that?
Come on, Dan. You got to speak into the mic.
That's all right. So no, and again, I'm by no means SCDC's attorney either, but it's my understanding that SCDC cannot charge anybody criminally for violations, but they do have just kind of a general baseline policies and procedures that are applicable throughout the state. And so when they come in and talking with them, it's my understanding that when they come in and conduct an investigation into a county or a municipal facility, they're looking at whether or not that baseline policy and procedures that they implement were followed. And so, when SCDC, if SCDC does come in and do an investigation into BCDC, that's what they would be looking at. But I don't believe that any sort of criminal charges or any criminal authority rests solely with SCDC in that context.
Thank you.
Huh?
I'm not asking you to speak for SCDC here, but I did have a conversation with them today.
Okay.
And they were very clear that they were only investigating potential violations of Beaufort County procedures.
Sure.
Not SCDC procedures. Does that make sense to you?
Right, so SCDC, there's statewide baseline policies and procedures across the state, and then BCDC can have their own policies and procedures, similar like a constitutional standard, right? We have a constitution, state can enact stricter laws, provide more protections in the baselines of constitution. Look at it that way. SCDC can provide baseline policies and procedures, BCDC can implement more strict policies and procedures. SCDC investigators certainly have the authority to come in and review BCDC policies in an independent aspect to make a determination of whether policies and procedures were followed, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh-huh.
You know, and I can tell y'all also that in my conversations I've had with Alice and Tab, they, you know, they've been briefed to a certain extent by me on this case, and they are concerned about not only the condition of the jail, but also the policy and procedure. And them sharing that concern also kind of assures me that Michael Moore, the county administrator, and staff will be more focused on what's actually going on at the jail. And because there's going to be repairs that are in dire need to be addressed. I expect that to happen, but the guidance from SCDC will help them make those, changes that need to be made. Anything else?
I just have a quick question. Do any other counties, the sheriff does run the jail?
You know,
Is it up to?
in South Carolina, it's about 50-50. You know, there are 46 sheriffs in South Carolina, and I want to say there's, probably around 20 that don't have anything to do with the jail. Now, the sheriff's office gave up the jail in 1986. Morgan McCutcheon was the sheriff at the time. Chet Maddox was in charge of the jail, and he gave the county wanted it. Knowing Morgan, I don't know if you remember Morgan or not, knowing Morgan like I did, he'd say, yeah, well, you're more than welcome to it, and laughed all the way back to his office.
That was when they moved.
Yeah.
That building.
Yeah. Well, they moved to the new jail closer, I think it was 89. But you remember the old jail over here. If you want to see what an old jail looks like, it's not far. But no, don't want anything to do with it.
And doesn't the county have plans for a new centralized detention center with that law enforcement campus they're talking about someday?
I'm trying not to laugh out loud. I know there was no plan for a jail on that property. No. Holding cell, but not a jail. We got holding cells in this building. Mitch will tell you about it later. Yeah, we have them here. So, but no, we. And then and so since I've been in office, I remember working here, as a deputy with the county jail. But since I've been in office as sheriff, there has never been a desire for me to have anything to do with a jail. And the sheriffs that I know in South Carolina that ran jails for years and then turned the jails over to the county are grateful that they have nothing else to do with a jail. I think you get sued like 2 or 3 times a day for about anything you can imagine. So I'd have a whole nother fleet of attorneys that have to deal with that. So I know the county, will based on the recommendations from the state, based on just reading this report that Brian will type, looking at video and stuff like that, within itself will help try to correct and look at corrective action at the jail. I'll tell y'all again, we've already notified the county. Daniel did, week and a half ago, that any FOIAs you've submitted for like video, phone calls, the county knows that they can release anything they want. So if you want it, you just have to send a FOIA. You'll get copies of the report when the case is closed out, and I think we're getting closer to finishing up that 2%. And then you'll be able to get a copy of the investigative report as well.
Are you going to release that, or is that going to be something we have to explore?
It'll be releasable when it's closed. I just don't know what the date of the closure will be.
Right now, we are monitoring. There are two systems in the Atlantic and a third wave that's being watched. Gabrielle is headed to the Azores, no problem. Humberto has formed into a tropical storm. It's not forecast to be a problem for South Carolina coast, other than beach erosion issues. And then there's the third system that is forecast to become a tropical low probably tomorrow, somewhere over the Bahamas. We're monitoring it very closely. If it becomes a tropical storm or hurricane, it will happen in a hurry, and it will happen very close to the South Carolina coast, and we will have to make a lot of moves in a hurry. And so we're prepared for that. We're encouraging the public to pay close attention to this and be prepared to take protective measures individually should this thing happen, because it would happen in a hurry.
Do you have any questions about the storm, the timing?
Monday, Tuesday? No.
That's what they're forecasting. We've been on the phone today with National Hurricane Center, with Columbia Weather and Charleston Weather, and they are forecasting whatever effects we have from it would be Monday into Tuesday.
So right now, you guys are just doing a lot of talking in these meetings. Make sure you guys have those resources.
We have tons of checklists, and we have gone through all of them this week, and which we do that periodically anyway, just to make sure. And that's what we're doing, and just sitting back and now waiting for the storm to actually begin.
A storm that develops this quickly, how does that affect your preparation?
It doesn't. It only affects the timeline. We're already ready. We have the resources ready. The state has their resources ready, and we are just waiting for it to happen.
Are you in charge of the county's response team, or is there somebody over on Reval Road?
No, ma'am. I answer to him.
So you're the.
Yes, ma'am. I'm the Emergency Management Division Commander. I'm what William Wynn used to be, and I answer to the boss.
So you run the op center?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any plans to activate that at this point, or is it too early?
It is still too early. We brought in all of the emergency support function staffs today and had them check their desks, and we test the computers in there weekly. We test the phones and the radios weekly. All of that is working, and we wanted to do that today because it's a weekend and folks sometimes get kind of difficult to find on Saturday afternoon or Sunday. So we did all that today. At this moment, we have no plans to open it because we don't have a storm out there. Once the storm gets named and all of the data that the Hurricane Center is gathering actually coalesces into a forecast, then the timeline will kick in.
I haven't seen the forecast since the 11:30 briefing this morning.
It hasn't changed.
Has there been any material
It
change?
hasn't, absolutely none. Hadn't changed since yesterday.
Can you push official sources and download Everbridge?
Can't do that. We, as the boss was talking about a minute ago about social media and the temperature, we encourage folks to pay attention to official sources of information. All of y'all, our social media pages, the county government social media pages, the municipal government's social media pages, pay attention to those. Download the Everbridge app. It's free, and you can tailor it to whatever information you want to receive, and it will get you information in a very timely manner.
Don't steer too far, because, I'll bring you back again. We did a briefing this morning. We did a call with our mayors, county and administrators throughout the county. We'll be doing the same thing tomorrow with the state. Tomorrow morning, we'll reach back out to the mayors and administrators. Then we'll call and have a call with the police chiefs and the fire chiefs. So, these are things that are going to happen every day. And Neil and his staff do a wonderful job staying on top of this. But there are things that you need to deliver to the citizens. This is the complications, Mitch, with these kind of storms. When you've got a storm that you can read for 5, 6, 7 days, and it's moving at a pace, at a certain strength, in a certain direction, you can plan. You can plan days ahead. Problem with this storm is you've actually got two running side by side. It's like a hippo and a pup. And you don't know if the hippo is going to take the pup with it, or is going to ditch it somewhere. So So what we know we're gonna get, so we know we're gonna get rain, okay? We don't know what the surge is gonna be, because we don't know exactly where the storm's coming in. If the storm were to come in, say Brunswick, between Brunswick and Savannah, we would get a lot of surge. But if the storm comes in Charleston, Myrtle Beach, then that surge is up in the right quadrant. Then you're gonna look at, upstate or the up coast in North Carolina. So we need citizens to pay attention, because here we are on a Friday. And what gets hairy about this is that every hour on the hour, something changes with the storm. And it may reduce the window of opportunity for an evacuation. So we may go from 72-hour window to a 48-hour window. So a decision has got to be made quickly on what time or if an evacuation is done. And those things are difficult. Now, we're moving into the weekend. Percentage-wise, I think throughout the county, we're at 50% with our visitors and folks like that. So the population is a little bit less than if this was July. But there's still a lot of people on the coast that have got to be moved. And then you start running into a time frame where it's, drop everything you're doing, let's go. So what we need you to tell our citizens, like Lindsay does, is you need to prepare for that right now. Don't wait till Sunday to make preparation for a potential evacuation. I mean, we don't know if we're going to have an evacuation or not. It just depends on the pup. What happens to the pup. So we're hoping that, the one will take the other one out to sea. But there are so many different factors in this thing that, jet stream, so, I mean, and then the unfortunate thing that we talked about in our 12 o'clock is that this storm that concerns us is in the warmest water that we have in the Atlantic, and that's where it's growing. So, you don't want me to make any more comments about the pup? But that's the best information you can get out of this, because it never fails that everyone waits till the 11th hour to make a decision. And as big as this county is now, and even though, our population is 200,000 people. Years ago when it was 100,000, it was a lot easier to move folks off the coast. But it's more difficult now than ever. Because we have choke points that we deal with every time we have an evacuation. Neil can tell you exactly where those choke points are. We haven't grown more roads and infrastructure, and we're still dealing with the same evacuation routes that we've been dealing with forever. But we're moving a lot more people. So anything else you think about our weather briefing that could be concerning?
We are going to, there's a cold front dropping down from the Ohio Valley tonight, and we're supposed to be getting some rain tomorrow and Sunday. It is not related to the tropical storm, but the forecast is for possibly 1 inch to 1.5 inches of rain. And as they always say, and local or heavier amounts. We need to be cognizant of that. We got a lot of inundation in August. We had some issues on the northern part of Beaufort County with some houses in the standing water. We will be getting some rain over the next couple of days. Pay attention to that, and then be prepared for the tropical situation that comes in behind it, which would bring potentially more rain.
So we had a pretty wet winter, or wet summer. And when you drive around the county now, it just seems like there is water everywhere.
We had a very wet August.
Right. And does that, you think about what happened with Debbie last year, and they were talking this morning about this potentially being a very slow-moving storm like Debbie was last year, where it just sat and dumped rain for 3 days. With the ground already being saturated, with water levels already being high, are we considering those?
Absolutely. That comes back to the messaging to folks that people know what floods. You live in a neighborhood, you know what side of the neighborhood floods. You know where the water goes and where it doesn't go. So if you suddenly think about the fact, well, they may be talking 6 to 8 inches of rain over the next 7 days, that side of the neighborhood's going to flood and it may get into my house. I need to be prepared for that. I need to take whatever measures of protection I need to do. So yes, we are concerned about that. Stormwater's been working hard over the past several weeks to address some of the issues, particularly on northern Ladies Island. They were out there cleaning out ditches in the last week of August that had been clogged up, and DOT was working with them to fix that. The lagoons are in good shape, and all these lagoons that are built in the gated communities and stuff, those were built for storm drainage. They weren't built for aesthetics, they were built for storm drainage, and all of those are in good shape, so they will be able to take a fair amount of water. But there are areas that don't have that infrastructure, and so we do need to be concerned. If there's standing water there now, it'll get worse.
Can I have a quick question, if you don't mind? For the evacuation routes, you said, you had mentioned some choke points. Is there like a way to know where those are particularly?
Just
Like
look at a map.
Yeah.
Look at a map where 2 or more roads come together and one comes out the other side. That's a choke point. I'll give you a perfect example. Ladies Island, the stoplight in front of Publix and Harris Teeter. You've got everything coming from the barrier islands, and you've got all of the development that lives on northern Ladies Island. Comes to one stoplight. That's a choke point.
Okay. Got it. And
It's-
then, when was the last evacuation?
The last one with a good public response was Matthew in 2016.
Okay.
We had one more ordered after that, and it didn't get much of a response from the public.
Okay.
And
Are they
so-
required? I mean, I've not lived through one, so are they required?
The governor orders them,
Okay, okay,
but
okay.
you hope that citizens realize that the governor is doing this with the best information available to him, and that they would heed that advice. But like I say, we had one more after Matthew, and it did not get a good response.
Okay, thank you.
But go ahead and tell them that a lot of times the evacuation is based on surge.
It's always, you hide from the wind and run from the water. We can build structures to protect us from the wind, and the current building codes in Beaufort County are very good, solid building codes to withstand hurricanes, but we're called the Low Country for a reason. And, the county is barely above sea level anywhere in the county. The highest point in the county is the Marine Corps Air Station. It's only 36 feet above sea level. But if you look at surge maps, which take into account the worst case scenarios, a whole lot of the county that is dry all of the time in a hurricane with a lot of rainfall will be very wet. And there are photographs of Highway 170 in a 1943 storm with people paddling boats down Highway 170 in Bluffton. So these roads were flooded. During Matthew, Highway 21 at Gardens Corner had 5 feet of salt water on top of it. During Matthew and during Irma the following year, Highway 21 at Ladies Island Airport had 3 feet of salt water on top of it. So.
All right, thank you all.